Hey guys, Kayley here. Today, we're gonna talk about ear piercings because a lot of you guys have been asking me about my piercings and about healing them and all the stuff. So I'm gonna talk about the piercings and pain and also some tips and tricks on healing your ears because that has been surprisingly difficult and I wanna share my journey with you. So let's get into it. So I've been wanting to get more piercings in my ears for a long time. I only had my lobes up until this year and I got those done when I was in high school. So it's been a little while. And it was just kind of like always in the back of my head. And then I stumbled across J. Colby Smith via Twitter, and then I ended up on his Instagram. And it was like walking into a salad shop and realizing that they serve pizza. It was like I didn't realize this was an option. They had all these really delicate like gold pieces and like really intricately placed earrings. And I was like, that's an option? Because I'd always seen like the really heavy silver jewelry, which is awesome, just doesn't fit me. So I saw his work, I loved it, and I pretty much immediately made an appointment. He has studios in New York and LA, so I grabbed a spot in LA, and then I started pinning all of the pictures of ears that I wanted so that whenever I saw him, he could help me figure out what to do. So then we had the consultation. So I get there and we have our consultation. And I'd heard beforehand that you should like give him an idea of what you want, but because he's the expert, he's gonna pick for you. And I was like, this is sounding really bougie, really fast, but okay. And I'm actually really glad I did. I showed him a bunch of pictures and then he dotted onto my ear some ideas he thought would work for me. And they were the exact earrings I was already thinking of, which was the high lobe and then the faux rook. I was also thinking of a second lobe, but when he drew it on my ear, I didn't like it. And so he had the idea to move it over here, which I really like because I feel like it balances having, you know, all the piercings over here and just a little bit over here. So I'm a fan. So we started with the big bad one up here. This one's the most intense because it's cartilage. And this is called a faux rook piercing. This little like flap fold of skin right here is your rook. And normally a rook piercing goes through both sides of it. So you either have like a stud on each side or a ring, but I liked the faux look. A lot of the pictures that I pinned had it in there, and I just thought it was this cool little stud moment. And I was thinking that it would probably be a little bit less painful than the real rook as well. So I sit down, we've talked through everything. He gets in the needle position. I'm expecting a countdown. There was no countdown. All of a sudden I realized there's a needle going through my ear, and my first thought was, I do not like this. Like that was the only thing that ran through my mind. And then I was like, no, I have to process this. I need to think about how this hurts so I can tell people. So I would say that on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like your basic shot and 10 being like, I don't know, childbirth, which I haven't experienced, but I can imagine. I'd say this would be like a 4. So you definitely feel it, but it's not by any means crazy. And I would say it's actually like a dull pain because you don't have a lot of nerve endings in here. So you mostly feel it like in this general vicinity, but it's not like a really sharp situation. But the funny thing that I noticed was that while the needle was going in, it hurt. But once the needle was in, it was fine. And then he had to put the jewelry in. And I heard that like putting the jewelry in is the worst part, like the most painful part. So I was like prepared, but it did not hurt that much. I actually think it was less painful than getting the earring in. He had to like switch the needle out for a plastic tube, then put the back in, then put the front in. And none of that was really bad. I would say it was like a 2 or a 3. And then the earring was done. And like I said, it didn't really hurt after that. Unless like I hit it or slept on it or something, it was fine. So even though you get that 4 while the needle's going through, it's not really a big deal after you're all done with it. So now let's move on to the high lobe piercing. Now this is called a high lobe because it's super high on your earlobe and it's like right below your cartilage. So if you kind of want a cartilage piercing but you don't want to commit to it, a high lobe is kind of a good way to go. I was expecting this to be a really, really easy piercing. I'm gonna tell you some stories about it later in the video, but for the actual piercing experience, I would say that the pain on this one was also a 4. Now I did get this pierced right after I did my faux rook, so it was probably a little bit more sensitive. Even though it's a 4, it was a different kind of pain. It was more sharp, whereas this was more dull. And actually, like if you pinch your cartilage and then pinch your earlobe, you'll kind of be able to feel the difference I'm talking about. It's just all those nerve endings in there, you can really tell where the needle is. But again, like once that needle's in, it's okay. Getting the jewelry in was a little bit more painful on this one because it's a ring, so it had to like swivel around and then you had to close the ends together. And that was the only time where I was like unpleasantly surprised by pain. I was like, whoa, because I thought it was over. Like I felt the ring go in, I was like, we're done. And then he starts like closing it and I was like, ah, what happened? So, you know, you get through it. Again, I don't think that was worse than a 4. I was just surprised, didn't expect it. So again, I really don't think piercings are bad. I think if you go in expecting it to be painless, yes, you're gonna feel pain, you're gonna be surprised. But if you go in there knowing like it's gonna hurt for a few seconds, you're gonna be fine. Just accept it, breathe through it. You can see in the footage, like I have my eyes closed, like I'm in my fortress of zenitude, like it's fine. And I think when you do that, it's fine. Like you just get over the fact like there's just gonna be pain. It's totally good. So then finally we moved over and we did my second earlobe. So I got 3 piercings done in one day. This one, I mean, it was a lobe. I think a lot of people have a second lobe piercing, so it wasn't that new. It was interesting to see the difference between a gun piercing versus a needle because I had this first lobe done with a gun at Claire's actually. And I would say this one, when it was done with a gun, was like a 2 and it was a very fast experience. Whereas this one was more like a 3 and it was a little bit slower putting the needle in. Even though it's a little bit more, you know, slow and painful, I would pick a needle over a gun any day because my little sister had this terrible experience getting her ears pierced with a gun and she eventually had to like lose the piercings because of it. And that just scarred me. I was like, nope, never again, not doing it. So I'd recommend a needle. I don't think it was that different and it's healed so well. Like by the second week, I even forgot this thing was here because I never feel it. So that is my ear story. I really loved the piercings that I ended up with. I love the jewelry that I ended up with. If you guys want to see J. Colby Smith, seriously recommend him. But now, let's talk about some aftercare. Now, you probably know if you get like a cartilage piercing, or I would even say like a high lobe piercing like this, you're not allowed to sleep on your piercing. And I sleep on my right side, which is something that I did not take into consideration when I got my ears pierced on my right side. So one thing I learned is that you can actually take an airplane pillow and use it so that you can sleep on whichever side you want to because there's a hole in the middle. So I just take it and take the neck and put it against my neck and I sleep like this. And it has saved my sleep. For like the first week I didn't have this, I could barely sleep, and now like I still use it whenever this ear starts to get a little bothered. It's the best thing. I do like that this one has toggles that hold it closed because otherwise it can kind of splay out and you can kind of like awkwardly be sleeping. But yeah, find something like this. It was like $10 at TJ Maxx and it will let you sleep with your new pierced ears. And then for cleaning, I had a time of it. This is where some of the tea comes out. This little monster has come for me every single day since I got it pierced. But basically, sorry, let's rewind. So Colby recommended that I wash my ears with just really gentle soap and water twice a day. And I did that for the first week and my ears do not like soap. I tried so many different kinds. I tried to be gentle. They were not having it. So basically fast forward like a week to 10 days after my piercing, this ear hurt so bad that I had to take pain meds. It was red. I was not having it. So I started researching what else I could do, and I saw that sea salt soaks were a thing where you take non-iodized salt, put a 1/4 teaspoon in a cup of hot water, warm water, not hot, warm water, and then you just soak your piercing in it. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea, but I was also feeling extra. So I went on Amazon and I found this, which is from Urban Relief. It's Piercing Care, which has vitamin E and aloe in it as well. And you can imagine me sitting there with a swollen, red, painful ear. I hear vitamin E and aloe and next day shipping, and I clicked order. So I got this and it really made a difference, guys. If you have irritated piercings, I highly recommend. Within like one soak, everything felt so much better. And then I was using it twice a day for the first several weeks. And then now I still use it like once every few days just to keep everything nice and calm and happy because this guy's gonna take almost a year to heal. So we're babying it with these. I bought the kind of larger pack because I knew that I was gonna be taking care of this one for a long time, but they do have a smaller one and this stuff will last you forever. So you can buy the smaller one and be totally fine. When I'm not being as hardcore, I use the H2Ocean Spray. This you can just spray on your piercings 3 to 6 times a day. You wanna do front and back, and that just kind of cleanses them. The only thing that doesn't do is it doesn't get rid of any kind of buildup. So if you have any little crusties, this isn't gonna get rid of them. You either wanna do that in the shower and just gently run your finger over it, or I will occasionally grab a Q-tip, which some people do not recommend because the lint can get stuck in your piercing, so do it at your own risk. But I'll take the Q-tip and I'll run it around, especially in the front here, because there's like all the nooks and crannies around here, and then I like to go through this little fold because sometimes little crusties can get stuck in there. And I know that sounds kind of gross, but if you get this piercing, you need to know, keep this clean. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Pretty much every morning and night I do this, and then sometime in the middle of the day I'll do it again, just to keep everything clean. And I'm gonna finish off with complications because this guy has been giving me a time of it. So I'm gonna spill a little tea here, mostly for your benefit in case you ever get pierced in a similar way, you need to know. So I got pierced and immediately had this ring put in, and I knew going into it, when you get a ring put into a new piercing, it's gonna take longer to heal and it's gonna be a little bit more aggravated. But I was like, it's fine. It's a lobe piercing. They heal in like 3 to 4 weeks. And so it might take like 6 weeks, I'll be fine. No. This thing was just so painful. I couldn't stop hitting it because of the placement, and then the ring would move all around. But also, and I have to admit this, I didn't like when the ring would sit like up next to my ear or down here. I wanted it to be perfectly out, so I would also move it all the time. So between the fact that there was a ring and the fact that I didn't stop touching it, it was constantly annoyed. It was red, it was painful. Finally, at the 6-week mark, I went in and got it switched out for a stud because I couldn't deal with it anymore. And then I kept doing my little Urban Relief ear soak for a while, and now I've kind of tapered off of it. But I finally put the ring back in last week. It was about 2 months between when I took it out and when I put it back in, and now it feels fine. Like I can do whatever I want. It's, you know, not a problem. It's not painful anymore. But I think if I hadn't taken it out and done that stud, it still would have stayed painful. So my advice, based on like the annoying experience that this has been, is don't get a ring when you get your ears pierced. Like just go for the stud, go through the healing time, and then get your ring. I think, at least based on my experience, I think that's the best way to go. And I really wish I had done that. But I am very happy now that I get to sport the little ring because I really like this guy. Okay, and that's it for my video. Wait, actually, before I go, this is called a sleeper ring. It's a little gold one, and my piercer sells them on his website. A lot of you guys have asked me about that ring. Okay, there we go. Now the video is done. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope it gave you whatever information you wanted on my piercings. Hope you enjoyed my little stories, and that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on Saturday with the hair tutorial, so come back then, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you then. Mwah. Bye.